Alright, hit me up with King of the Hobos.
King of the Hobos. Well, you know, when I was a kid, like, I used to ride freight trains all the time. Because the freight train's the main freight line. I lived outside of Pittsburgh, and the main east-west freight line between, like, New York and Chicago ran right through my town. So freight trains all the time, and, you know, that was an adventure with kids. We used to, like, ride the freights and, like, ride out into the country, and we had camps and things on the river and stuff. So, but, you know, they were always sort of like short-term freight rides, you know, like you ride a couple miles and jump off. But I was always intrigued with that whole lifestyle, and every once in a while when I was a kid I used to see hobos. So I was intrigued with it, and I was in my 20s. I thought, well, you know, I'd done my waterman thing, I'd been a commercial fisherman, and I got like, I think this is a, you know, adventure I need to chase down. And I thought, you know, I'd always heard that there was a king of the hobos. And so I did some research, and I found out that, in fact, there is. Every summer, they have this hobo convention in Britt, Iowa. And they elect the king of the hobos. All like the hobos. I mean, like, this has been going on since like the 1930s, okay? Or the 1920s, maybe. So it's a Depression era, right? So I find out, I'm going, I find out who the king of the hobos is. This guy named Steam Train Maury Graham. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be fun? I mean, what an American myth. This is like the king of the gypsies or something. So I'll be like, can I track this guy down? Can I ride freight trains to find him? So I actually, like, write him some letters, and I get letters back, and he says, you know, like, you know, where are you going to be? And I'm like, what's he do? Like, he goes around to all, he has a certain kind of celebrities being king of the hobos, and so he goes around to all these, like, local festivals, particularly, like, harvest festivals and things. And he was going to be at this place called Thurmont, Maryland, in the Catoctin Mountains in north of Baltimore, okay? Like where Camp David is, okay? And he was going to be there on such and such a date, and I thought, all right. So let's see if I can, you know, I'm going to try to meet up with him. But I had the sense that the story was really not going to be like totally finding Maury, but it was going to be like the adventure of trying to find him. And so I figured out what rail lines went to Thurmont. And it was like a branch line off the Western Maryland Railroad. But the main line of the Western Maryland Railroad that went up to the branch line ran out of like Hagerstown, Maryland, and went over these mountains and into Gettysburg and York, and then maybe curved down to Baltimore. So I had to start there. So I started one Friday night in this rail yard at Hagerstown. And I go, all right, so I have to figure out what train I'm going to get. I have to get a train that takes me like up to the tops of these mountains, but then I'm going to have to get off and then wait and figure out when the next train goes down the branch line. And this is early 1980s, I guess. No, maybe late 1970s. But it wasn't like the old days now. Like, railway detectives were like really serious about watching the rail yards and making sure that people are not ripping off the freight cars. Because that, you know, that's the gig, right? And once upon a time, the railway, they call them railway bulls or railway dicks. They used to, you know, they try to chase the hobos off the trains too, because the hobos would, you know, some of them would rip off the freight as well. But now, I mean, there weren't many hobos riding, but the cargoes were more valuable, and so I didn't want to get arrested, right? So I thought, well, you know what? Maybe if I'm like right out front with what they call the yard brakemen, these guys will help me out. There's a big staging yard there where they make up trains in Hagerstown, right, to go over the mountains or go westbound to like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and, you know, onward. So I find the Breaky Shack. It's So it's, you know, these brakemen, they're the guys that they're making up the trains all the time, right? So I find the brakie shack and I go in there and I tell the guys what I'm doing, and they're going like, awesome. They go like, we haven't seen anybody ride the freights in years, right? They go, yeah, we'll help you out. We'll keep you out of the way of the bulls. We'll get you on the right train. You know, they told me, they said, like, this is the train you want to get to the top of the mountain. I'm going, is it going to stop at the top of the mountain? They're going to go like, well, you know, it's going really pretty slow because it's climbed this mountain. But maybe we can help you out. And then they said, but you have to stay up there overnight, and then the local comes to go down the branch line the next morning. So I got the picture in my mind, and they said, I'm going like, okay, so when's the train leave? It leaves at midnight. Honest to God, the name of the train was the Midnight Special. Oh, I'm going like, cool. This is great, right? Okay. So, you know, they just said, like, you know, like, hang out, stay out of sight. This is like 7 o'clock in the evening. You know, come back at 11:30 and we'll find, you know, you don't want an open ride, it's going to be cold. It was like beginning of November. You can freeze to death on a freight train going over a mountain that time of the year. So that if, you know, like if you had an outside ride, they said, we'll find you, you know, some inside ride, like a boxcar or whatever it is. And at any rate, I took myself out to dinner at some diner by the rail yard. I came back and I went to the brakie shack and they go like, you know, we've been talking about this. It's going to be really cold tonight. We talked to the train crew. You know, there are like 4 or 6 locomotives in this team of engines to pull this freight. They need all these extra locomotives to get it up over the mountain. And they go, what? We think you should just ride in the cab of the back locomotive. You can have it all to yourself. It's heated. It's got a toilet. Go like, good. Okay. I got my bottle of Ripple. I'm ready to go. You know, I'm doing my hobo thing, right? So, you know, 11:45, the guy just nods at me. He goes like, let's go. So I go up and I get in the cab of this back locomotive. I'm sitting in the engineer's seat, you know, just looking back over the train. We pull out of Hagerstown. I open my Ripple, got the window open a little bit. It's like a full moon. I'm like, that, you know, like how could this be like an American romance, right? And I'm back there for like 45 minutes. We're starting up the mountains, and the engines are really grinding, and the train's slowing down. And all of a sudden, I hear a door slam open behind me. And I'm like, shit. This guy comes in. And I'm going like, I'm busted, because I hadn't seen any of the train crew. And it turns out the guy goes like, relax. He's the conductor on the train. He goes like, you know, he said, the brakies told me you were back here. Told me what you're doing. You know, tell me more. What's going on? So I tell him about the King of the Hobos and stuff. And then this guy starts in with his stories. He starts telling me all his stories of, you know, like back in the days when there wasn't diesel locomotives and it was like all these big articulated steam locomotives going over the mountains and carrying, and hobos and train wrecks and blizzards and just like all the romance of American railroading. I'm going like, this is cooler than finding the King of the Hobos, because this guy, he just wanted to talk. I mean, it was like an all-night train ride, right? And he leaves after a couple hours, and then the engineer comes back. So the conductor's running the train up forward, and the engineer comes back, and he tells me more stories. And I remember the King of the Hobos and this such and such a time. And it was one story after another. You know, like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, they drop me. They go like, we'll slow down for you, so you can just like, when we go through this station up at the top of the mountain. And you know, they told me where to like, I might get some shelter. I had a sleeping bag. It was cold, you know, it was below 0, I think. So they dropped me off. And they said, well, you know, we'll tell the guys, we'll probably see the guys that are running the branch line, because they're going to come out of Gettysburg, or we're going to Gettysburg. So we'll tell them to look for you. So, like, cuddle up, I get in my sleeping bag, I shiver the rest of the night, and it snows on top of me, and the next thing I know, somebody's shaking me. It's like, hey buddy, you the guy needs a ride. And it's the conductor on the branch line locomotive. I'm going, yeah, I'm that guy. He goes, you're going to Thermont, right? You're looking for the king of the hobos. I'm going, yeah. He goes, all right, come on. So I get in the little shifter branch line locomotive, and they got 15 freight cars, and off we go down the mountain, twist and turn into Thermont. They drop me off in some place where like nobody's gonna see me get off the train, so they don't get busted. But it's really close to the fairgrounds, so I go to the fairgrounds. I'm feeling pretty good. Like, hey, I just rode this freight train over the mountains at night. I got all these good stories. Now all I have to do is find the king of the hobos, right? So it's a country fair, right? And there are people selling jelly and jam, and they're carnival rides and the normal stuff, and they're like a midway. But I find somebody like selling fried dough, and like, no, would you know where I'd find the king of the hobos? And they're like, yeah, he's down by the river making music for some kids. So I follow this path down there, and there's this gang of kids in the middle, and there's this guy who looks like Santa Claus. He's big and heavy, and he's got this like huge gray beard, big rosy cheeks, red nose, like total like Coca-Cola Santa, okay? And he's singing, and he's playing the bones on his, singing like, I don't know, like Oh Susanna, or some like American folk song, like some Stephen Collins Foster thing. And he's playing it, and he's singing it. I'm going like this, this is perfect. And then he looks at me, he goes like, hey man, you must be Randy. And I'm going, yeah. He goes like, hey, it's good to see you made it. And I'm going, he said, how'd you get here? And I tell him, and everybody's listening, the kids are, I go like, oh my God, this guy rode freight trains too. And I'm going like, so, nobody saw you on the trains, Maury, because I'm all the way. I'm going like, I'm supposed to meet the king of the hobos. Did he pass through here? And nobody said, no, we haven't seen anybody else. We think we'd see the king of the hobos. And he says, he goes like, I got here yesterday. And I'm going like, did you take the midnight special? He said, no, man, I came in that. And he points over, there's a parking lot, there's a Toyota Corolla. I'm going like, perfect,